excited that you're here and tuning in to episode number 1, all about goal setting. I am Dr. Lindsay and the host of Improve with Dr. Lindsay podcast. And I am so excited to talk about goals today because this is a topic super near and dear to my heart, especially as a physical therapist. But I am constantly creating and assessing goals for myself, my business, and most importantly for my clients and my patients every day. And that's something that I don't think a lot of people really realize is just how important goal setting is within physical therapy. It's actually a lot of what we do as physical therapists. We are constantly creating and assessing goals, working towards goals, and checking our patients' progress towards their goals. And so naturally, we become very goal-oriented and good at setting goals. When I first became a PT, I actually remember having a really difficult time with this. And I just kept thinking to myself, how can I possibly know exactly how long it's going to take somebody to be able to achieve a goal, especially whenever there are so many factors that play into their success with that. But this quickly became one of my favorite parts of being a therapist. And I very quickly realized that these days where we reassessed goals and measured our progress towards the goals were the days that my patients and I got to see all of our hard work really finally pay off. And it helps, it also gets really fun and competitive, and it helps the patient keep moving forward. And I found that more than anything else I could do for them, being able to mark that progress and show them that improvement and show them that their hard work really paid off, it counted for more than almost anything else I did. It was the best thing I could do to keep them motivated and keep them going. Also, over time, I got much better at setting reasonable expectations and came to the realization that goals were there as a facilitator, as a roadmap to success, as a series of steps and things that we want to be able to do in order to get to the final goal. They're not a marking a failure if they're not achieved. They're not meant to confine us. And if something isn't working, it's time to either change the goal or change our approach to the goal and our efforts in that direction. Goals have to adjust and change with us as we move forward and as we change in life. And a lot of these things ring true, not just in therapy, but in the rest of the world, in business, in finance, in health and fitness, in relationships, in faith, you name it. Goal setting is not only important for providing that initial direction for our work and for our efforts to point us in the right direction, but to keep us motivated, focused, and on track as we move forward, and ultimately leave us with a great sense of gratification and satisfaction once we've finally achieved that goal that we worked so hard for. And so today, we're not going to go into the nitty-gritty of how to set goals, what a SMART goal is, or any of that nature. For that, I have created a blog post for you guys on my website, improvephysicaltherapy.com. And that's where you can go and read up on what a SMART goal is, how to set a SMART goal, and how to use them, why you should use a SMART goal. And all of those things are outlined there for you. And so just briefly, what a SMART goal means, it's an acronym for specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and timely. And essentially, all of those components are very important. And I break all of that down for you in the blog post. So check it out. Again, improvephysicaltherapy.com. And it's in the top right corner. If you click on blog, you'll be able to find it. But for today, I want to focus on really just providing insight and hopefully some motivation and inspiration for those of you who are tuning in to this podcast. I have worked with people for a long time in very goal-oriented fields of exercise science and physical therapy, and I've noticed some patterns along the way. I have fallen into some of those patterns myself, and I'm actually currently working on turning those things around and setting some health and fitness related goals for myself. And I just hope to help other people do the same. The biggest thing that I have found in my experience is that the biggest difference between someone who meets their goals and somebody who doesn't in therapy and in life is the difference of someone who is committed to putting in the work. The one who is motivated to get better and is fully invested in their progress typically gets better. And that is not due to my efforts or any amazing goal setting that I did. Though I provide guidance and instruction to all of my clients, the difference was the work and the effort that they put in. The truth is, if you want to change your life, then you have to change something or nothing will change. We live in a world full of instant gratification and entitlement mentality, but nothing worth going through is an easy process, and PT is no exception to that. Physical therapy is an active solution, not a passive treatment. Though at times there is a need for things that are more passive, especially when we're trying to manage certain symptoms. The majority of what we do and the things that offer the most lasting results are not passive, but require active effort from the patient. The other hard truth is that we are all sitting around waiting to make a change until it is the right time or until we have enough money or enough time to deal with it. And trust me, I get it. This world and this economy is very difficult. Things are very hard. But I hate to break it to you. There is no perfect timing when it comes to being ready to make a change for the better. You're either going to do it or you're going to keep putting it off until you finally decide to do it or you give up on it. Life is never going to slow down just right to make things perfect for you. You're never going to have the money to invest in yourself because you're always going to find a way to spend it on something else, I assure you, unless you decide to prioritize spending the time and the money on yourself and your dreams. There will always be a million excuses when it comes to time and matters of day-to-day life that keep us from fully committing to ourselves and to growing and improving our lives. Trust me, I created a business, a mobile business where I go to my clients' homes to take away the excuse of time and inconvenience and lack of confidence with performing exercises at home. And yet still I find people that continue to find excuses not to get their exercises done until they've set aside time to work with me. The thing is, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. However, making sure the horse understands why it should drink water and maybe trying to help the horse figure out why it doesn't want to drink water might help the horse finally decide to do it and to drink. People make the time and they find the money when things are important to them. You've heard it a million times, time and time and time again in many aspects of life. And this is true again for our health, our finances, our relationships, our businesses, etc. This is not just about getting motivated and getting into the gym or finally deciding to get some help with your pain. This is about getting yourself into a position where you can set goals for yourself, stick to them, and stick with them until you get the result that you're looking for. And this is all why I believe it's extremely important to involve my patients in my goal setting process to make sure that my goals for them and their goals for themselves are aligned and that we're working together towards the same desired result. It's also important to me that they understand the things that they need to change in order to get their desired outcome. And in that, I like to take the time to explain. I like to teach. Sometimes I even get into the nitty-gritty stuff that might go right over their head, but so that they can understand how all this goes together to lead them to the positive outcome that they want. Because if we don't know why we're doing something or why we should do something, then why would we do it? And I think that especially rings true when it comes to PT, because let's face it, if you don't know why you're doing what you're doing or what you're supposed to be doing and why it's important, some of those exercises, they can just get pretty boring, or at least that's the thing that a lot of my patients have told me from their prior experiences before meeting me. And then things get a lot more fun when you know why you're supposed to be doing it and what you're working and all the things. But something I do very differently than others is that I typically only see my patients one time a week. Typical PT is usually 2 to 3 times a week, depending on the issue that you're dealing with. But what one time a week provides is it really places the control in the patient's hand, gives them the autonomy over their success, and it empowers them. It helps them to gain confidence instead of relying on their therapist. And ultimately, this leads to a more lasting result. Instead of needing to run back to me every single time their pain flares back up, they actually have the confidence to know what to do once I'm no longer seeing them every week. Plus, it lowers the burden of cost, which is always a win. Now, there are still cases, especially when something is very acute and we need to get to things quickly or we expect things to evolve and change very quickly, that I will see people more often than one time a week. But in most cases, when pain is chronic, we have to allow more time for those adaptations to occur. And once a week allows time for the adaptations to take place and for the patient to gain confidence in their ability to manage their symptoms and perform the exercises correctly on their own. And that is just like anything that we let go on in our lives for a long time. The longer it has gone on, the more time that we have to allow for that habit or the issue to go away. So what does all this have to do with goal setting again? All right, let's take a step back. Goal setting is important to provide direction, like we talked about, for our work and for our efforts to move in the right direction. But we as humans simply do better when we have something to work towards. As much as we love our fur babies, we are not dogs or cats or wild animals. We are humans. We are people with ambition and with purpose. So to set goals, we need a couple things. We need to first determine what we need to achieve or accomplish, or what we want to achieve or accomplish. And two, figure out what needs to change to get there. So because I'm a PT, I'm naturally going to use an example that relates to PT, but first let me explain a couple things so that it makes sense to you. We as PTs determine what needs to change based on a number of things, but the two major things that guide our goal setting process are one, what the patient's goals are, or what we want to achieve and accomplish, and two, what we find in our examination, which is what we need to change to get there. So let's say we have a patient with low back pain and her goal is to be able to do a back squat in the gym without pain. Well, first we would need to get to know our patient and ask a lot of questions and probe to find that information. So that is why I say collaborating with your patient on goal setting is so important. And I tell my students all the time, take a thorough history and ask a lot of questions because it ultimately guides our decision making on what we're going to need to examine and look at. And it also helps to build trust in a relationship with our patient. Okay, so let's say we examine the patient and we find that she has weak glutes and she tends to overarch her back or overextend her back when she is performing a bodyweight squat, which elicits the low back pain. Well, now we have the material we need to set some goals for her. One, we know what we need to accomplish, which is a back squat. And two, we know what needs to change to get there, which is her glute strength, core stability, and her motor control. So now we can set a goal. And it may sound something along the lines of a long-term goal of, in 6 weeks, the patient will be able to perform a back squat with a 45-pound barbell while maintaining a neutral spine for 10 repetitions. And we will also likely see a few short-term goals directly related to her deficits and the steps that we expect to take in order to get to that long-term goal, but I'm not going to bore you with that or those examples right now. And I do talk about all of this in my blog. I talk about why we have long-term and short-term goals and the roles that each of those play. So if you want to know more information, please look at that. But I do want you to notice that in my example, I am very detailed and I did follow the SMART goals principles that I was talking about earlier. And again, that are all outlined in the blog, but we were specific about what type of exercise, what detail that we put in the goal. We were measurable with weight and repetitions. We were attainable and realistic because the goal is achievable and reasonable within what she's capable of doing. And it's relevant, very relevant to her deficits and her goals. And timely. We put a time to it. We said 6 weeks. So for something non-PT related, it may look a little bit different, but the same principles still apply. One, you want to start with asking yourself a lot of questions. So very similar to our history taking process, to figure out what you want in life, what you want to change for yourself. And two, you want to examine yourself in your life, determine what's working well for you, what needs to change, what is the equivalent to your weak glutes and poor core stability that leads to your inability to do something that you want to do. And now you have the material to start setting some goals for yourself. These goals, as we discussed, will help to provide direction for your efforts and help to get you started. But another piece is making sure to reevaluate your progress towards your goals regularly. Set a time frame that works for you and works for the timeline of the goal that you're setting and check in and see how you're doing. So many people set it and forget it when it comes to goals, and they set them at the beginning of the year, and then you know what, they end up writing the same goals again next January 1st. So don't let that be you. Set a timeline that you're going to check in, find an accountability partner if you need to, and make sure that you check in regularly on a certain, time frame basis. Because it's checking in is where the magic really happens. And that's when you get to see all your efforts coming through. And that's what's going to help keep you motivated and feeling productive. Just like I said, when I reassess goals with my patients, those are the days that we get to realize how hard we worked. It's finally paying off. And sometimes these days they provide insight on what goals really aren't serving you anymore. What's not working for you anymore. What is no longer relevant. What is not important to you anymore. And we come into more information and where things change. Things take longer than we thought they were going to. Our goals must adjust too as we evolve and move forward. But before you just go adjusting a goal, first ask yourself if it's still important to you. And if that answer is yes, then you need to ask yourself what you need to adjust in order to start making progress towards that goal. Sometimes that's your efforts, it's the things that you're doing, and sometimes it's the goal itself that needs to adjust. But if the answer to it being important to you anymore is no, then don't be afraid to just scrap it altogether. Create a new goal in its place that actually serves you and where you're at in your life and is important to you now. It's okay to make changes to your goals. They are not here to confine you and to trap you. They are here to facilitate you and help you. And so don't give the goals power over you. Remember that we are always hopefully evolving and growing. And so our goals have to grow too. And that goes back to what I was saying in the beginning of why I was so overwhelmed with goals in the beginning is there was all this pressure of setting goals and them being perfect. And the truth is they can change. You might learn things about yourself as you go through things. And a goal that served you at one point may no longer serve you. And so you need to move on and create a new goal. But trust me, there is nothing more gratifying than starting to see your hard work pay off and actually being able to see all of your efforts on paper. And it can light a fire under you like nothing else. Once you realize what you're capable of, it's a snowball effect or a ripple effect, whatever you prefer, and it can lead to more exponential and profound growth. Proving to yourself that you can do whatever it is that you set your mind to. Counting all those little daily wins compounds on itself and can shift your perspective on what you are capable of doing. This helps to keep you focused, keeps you on track for success, and ultimately leads to the greatest sense of gratification and satisfaction when you finally achieve the goals you worked so long and so hard for. Now, here in about a week, we enter the fourth quarter of the year, last quarter of the year. So it's a great time to either start establishing goals for yourself or reevaluate the goals that you previously set for yourself this year. Check in, change what you need to, and finish 2024 strong. So as always, with Improve with Dr. Lindsay, we hope to provoke thought, expand understanding and awareness, inspire and motivate, and most of all, improve your life. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. I wish you all the best week ahead and look forward to seeing you back for episode number 2, which is going to be all about the gap between being in physical therapy and actually being able to participate in a regular fitness routine. See you then.